Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the stars through the main screen. The massive ship moved slowly through space, its thick metal hull reflecting the distant light of unknown suns. This was her first mission as captain of humanity's newest flagship, and she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "Captain," called Lieutenant Martinez from the communication station. "We're getting a signal. It's not from any human ship." Sarah walked over to his station. The bridge crew turned to look at her. These were some of Earth's best officers, trained to handle anything space could throw at them. But an alien signal was something new. "Put it on the main screen," Sarah ordered. The image that appeared made everyone gasp. A tall, thin creature, with blue skin and large black eyes, looked back at them. Its face showed clear signs of fear and desperation. Behind it, lights flashed red, and strange sounds filled the air. "Unknown ship," the alien said in broken English. "This is first speaker. Phelan of the Zilani Commonwealth, we need help. The Korthak swarm attacks our worlds. Many of our people are dying. We send this message to all ships in the area." The alien paused, and its large eyes seemed to focus directly on them. "You appear to be from the death world called Earth. We thought your kind were just stories. If you truly exist, if you are the Deathworlders we have heard about, please help us. We have nowhere else to turn." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in silence. "Deathworld?" asked Commander Roberts, Sarah's second in command. "Is that what they call Earth?" Sarah nodded slowly. She had read the reports from humanity's first contact with alien traders 5 years ago. Most alien species saw Earth as impossible to live on. The gravity was too strong, the weather too violent, the animals too dangerous. They called planets like Earth Deathworlds, and couldn't believe anything intelligent could survive there. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez," Sarah ordered. Within minutes, the Admiral's face appeared on screen. Admiral Rodriguez was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in Earth's last war and helped design the ships that now protected humanity's colonies. "What's the situation, Captain?" he asked. Sarah quickly explained the alien message. The Admiral listened without interruption, his face growing more serious with each word. "The Korthak swarm," he said finally. "We've heard rumors about them. They're supposed to be some kind of hive mind that eats entire planets. No one has ever stopped them. What are your orders, sir?" Admiral Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned forward. "I'm sending you the 7th Deathworlder Squadron. 12 ships, all with experienced crews. You'll be in command." "Sir, we don't know anything about these Korthak. They might be too strong for us." The Admiral smiled grimly. "Captain, we humans learned to fight on a world that tries to kill us every day. We survived ice ages, predators that hunted us for sport, diseases that wiped out entire populations, and natural disasters that could destroy cities in minutes. I think we can handle some space bugs." 2 hours later, Sarah watched as the other ships of the squadron moved into formation around the Indomitable. The heavy cruiser Survivors took position on their right, its hull covered in scars from previous battles. The destroyer Apex Predator moved to the left, looking like a metal shark ready to strike. The other ships had names that would have made aliens shake with fear: Hurricane, Earthquake, Volcano, Tsunami, Blizzard, Wildfire. Each ship was built using lessons learned from living on Earth. They were thick, strong, and designed to keep fighting even when badly damaged. Commander Roberts walked up to Sarah as she watched the ships move into position. "The crews are excited," he said. "Most of them have never seen real combat. They want to prove that humans can fight as well as anyone in the galaxy." "What do we know about the Zilani?" Sarah asked. "They're traders and explorers," Roberts replied, reading from his tablet. "Peaceful people who have never been in a real war. Their ships are beautiful but not very strong. They use energy weapons and rely on shields for protection." Sarah nodded. "And the Korthak? That's where it gets scary. They're like insects, but the size of spaceships. They work together like a hive, all controlled by queen creatures. They use biological weapons, acids that eat through metal, living creatures that burrow into ships, poison gases. They reproduce fast and attack in huge swarms." "How many systems have they taken?" 17, according to the reports. They don't leave anything alive. They consume everything and then move on to the next target. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was bigger than any threat humanity had ever faced. But looking around, at her crew, she felt pride as well as fear. These were the children of Earth, trained by the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. If anyone could stop the Korthak, it would be them. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," called Lieutenant Martinez. Sarah took a deep breath. Signal the fleet. Set course for the Kepler 442 system. Maximum speed. The stars changed as the ships jumped into hyperspace. Sarah watched the swirling colors outside and thought about what they might find when they arrived. The Zilani had called humans Deathworlders like it was something to fear. Soon the galaxy would learn that sometimes you needed people from a death world to protect you from the things that lived in the dark spaces between stars. In the ship's mess hall, the crew talked quietly among themselves. Some were nervous, others excited. All of them knew they were about to make history. Humanity was about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could do when someone threatened innocent people. Chief Engineer Jackson, a big man with oil-stained hands, spoke to his team. Remember, our ships weren't built to look pretty. They were built to survive. When those bug things start shooting acid at us, our armor will hold. When they try to board us, our bulkheads will stop them. We're from Earth. We don't give up, and we don't back down. Similar conversations were happening on every ship in the squadron. The children of humanity's wars, its survivors, its fighters, were preparing for battle. They carried with them the lessons of Earth. Adapt or die, fight or flee, protect the weak or become prey yourself. As the Indomitable raced through hyperspace toward an unknown enemy, Sarah stood on her bridge and felt the weight of her species' reputation. The aliens called them Deathworlders because they couldn't imagine surviving on Earth. Soon they would learn that surviving on a death world taught you something very important: how to kill the things that wanted to kill you. The Korthak swarm had never faced an enemy like humanity. They were about to learn why Earth had produced the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and what they saw made everyone on the bridges go silent. Space was full of massive creatures that looked like insects crossed with warships. Thousands of them swarmed. Around 3 planets, their bodies dark and shiny like beetle shells but the size of city blocks. "Dear God," whispered Commander Roberts, staring at the main screen. Captain Sarah Chen watched in horror as the alien creatures attacked beautiful, crystal ships that sparkled like diamonds in space. The Zilani vessels were elegant and graceful, but they were being torn apart by claws and acid sprays from the bug-like attackers. "Captain, I'm reading massive biosignatures," reported Lieutenant Park from the science station. "Those aren't ships. They're alive. All of them." Sarah felt her stomach turn. Each of the attacking creatures was a living being the size of a human destroyer. Worse, there were thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. The Korthak swarm was even more terrible than the reports had suggested. "Signal from a Zilani ship," called Martinez from communications. "It's badly damaged. Put them through." The blue-skinned alien from the distress call appeared on screen. First speaker Valen looked even worse than before. Green blood ran down his face, and sparks flew from damaged equipment behind him. "Human ships," Valen said, his voice weak. "You came. I did not believe the stories about Deathworlders, but you are here." "We're here to help," Sarah replied. "What's your situation?" "We have lost 60% of our fleet. The Korthak attacked 3 days ago with more ships than we have ever seen. They spray acid that eats through our shields, then send boarding creatures to consume our crews from the inside." On the tactical display, Lieutenant Park highlighted the battle area. "Captain, I count over 8,000 Korthak bioships. They're arranged in a swarm pattern around the 3 planets. The Zilani have maybe 200 ships left, and most of those are damaged." Sarah looked at the numbers. 12 human ships against 8,000 alien creatures. It should have been impossible. But as she watched the Korthak attack pattern, she began to see something. "They're not thinking," she said slowly. "Look at how they move. It's all the same pattern, over and over." Commander Roberts nodded. "Like insects following instinct instead of making plans." "That's because they are insects," said Chief Medical Officer Thompson, who had been studying the bio-readings. "Each creature is controlled by chemical signals from bigger ones. They're not individual fighters, they're parts of a larger organism." Sarah felt a spark of hope. Humans had fought hive insects before on Earth. Ants, bees, termites. They were strong when working together, but they followed simple rules. If you could break their pattern, you could beat them. "First speaker Valen," Sarah said to the alien on screen. "Can you tell us about their weapons and tactics?" "They spray acid that dissolves our energy shields," Valen replied. "Then they shoot living pods that burrow into our hulls. The creatures inside eat through our ships and attack our crews. They also release poison gas that kills most oxygen-breathing species." "What about their larger ships?" The biggest ones are queen creatures. They control the smaller ones through some kind of biological communication. We have tried to attack the queens, but they are too well protected. Sarah nodded. This was exactly like fighting insects on Earth. Take out the queen and the workers become confused and helpless. All ships, this is the captain, Sarah announced on the fleet communication channel. I want damage reports and tactical assessments. One by one, the ship captains reported in. Captain Martinez of the survivors spoke first. Heavy cruiser ready for combat. All weapons operational. Armor integrity at 100%. Captain Johnson of the Apex Predator was next. Destroyer ready. Point defense systems armed. Boarding repulsion systems active. The other ships reported similar readiness. Unlike the elegant Zelani vessels, human ships looked like metal fortresses. They were built thick and heavy, designed to take massive damage and keep fighting. Captain, called Lieutenant Park, I'm detecting something strange about those creatures. They're avoiding certain areas of the system. Show me. Park highlighted parts of the tactical map. They're staying away from the asteroid belt and the radiation zones around the gas giant. It's like they don't want to fight in areas with lots of debris or high energy. Sarah smiled grimly. That made sense. Biological creatures would avoid things that could damage their soft tissues. But human ships were built to handle asteroid fields and radiation storms. They could fight in places the Korthak couldn't. First speaker, Sarah said to the Zelani commander. Can your remaining ships retreat to the outer system? Yes, but the Korthak will follow us. They never stop attacking until everything is dead. That's what we're counting on. Pull back your ships. We're going to show these bugs what happens when you threaten innocent people. Valen's large eyes widened. You have 12 ships against thousands. This is suicide. Sarah looked around her bridge at her crew. They were young humans, most of them born on Earth or Earth colonies. They had grown up with stories of humanity's struggles. Ice ages, predators, plagues, wars. Their ancestors had survived everything a hostile universe could throw at them. First speaker, Sarah said calmly. You called us Deathworlders because we come from a planet that tries to kill us every day. What you don't understand is that living on a death world teaches you something very important. It teaches you how to kill the things that want to kill you. She turned to her crew. All stations, prepare for combat. Tactical. I want firing solutions on the nearest Korthak formations. Engineering. Give me everything the engines can handle. Communications. Signal the fleet. We're going in. The 12 human ships began to move toward the massive swarm of alien creatures. On every bridge, crews ran through combat checks with calm efficiency. They were scared, but they were ready. This is what they had trained for their entire lives. Captain, said Commander Roberts quietly, the Zelani think we're crazy. Sarah watched as thousands of bio-ships began to turn toward them, drawn by their approach like sharks sensing blood in the water. Maybe we are crazy, but we're crazy in ways that keep us alive. The distance between the human fleet and the Korthak swarm closed rapidly. Soon, the real battle would begin. The children of Earth were about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could do when someone threatened the innocent. The battle began when Captain Sarah Chen did something that shocked every alien watching. Instead of staying at long range like normal space combat, she ordered the human fleet to charge straight into the heart of the Korthak swarm. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Sarah commanded. Close distance and engage at point-blank range. The Indomitable led the charge, its massive bulk smashing through the outer edge of the swarm like a metal hammer. The Korthak creatures immediately swarmed toward them, spraying streams of acid that would have dissolved any normal ship's hull in seconds. But human ships were not normal. The acid splashed against the Indomitable's armor and ran off like water. The ship had been built to survive in Earth's oceans, where the pressure could crush submarines and the salt water ate through metal. A little alien acid was nothing compared to what Earth could do. First impact in 3 seconds, called Lieutenant Park from Tactical. Sarah gripped her command chair. All hands brace for contact. The Indomitable slammed into the first line of Korthak bioships like a freight train hitting insects. The alien creatures tried to grab the human ship with massive claws, but the armor was too thick and smooth. Instead of stopping, the Indomitable kept moving, pushing through the swarm while its weapons fired in all directions. Point defense systems engaging, reported Weapons Officer Davis. Target-rich environment. The human point defense guns had been designed to shoot down meteors and space debris at close range. Against living targets the size of small ships, they were devastating. Streams of metal bullets tore through Korthak creatures, cutting them to pieces in seconds. Behind the flagship, The other human ships followed the same tactics. The heavy cruiser survivors rammed through a group of medium-sized Korthak, its reinforced bow crushing their shells like eggs. The destroyer Apex Predator moved like its namesake, targeting the largest creatures with concentrated fire. "Captain, the Korthak are trying boarding tactics," reported Commander Roberts. "Multiple impacts on the hull." This was what Sarah had been waiting for. The Korthak boarding pods looked like giant seeds with teeth. They burrowed into ship hulls and then released creatures that would eat the ship from inside. It was a tactic that had destroyed hundreds of alien vessels, but human ships were built differently. On Earth, submarines had to survive being crushed by water pressure and attacked by sea creatures. Human warships used the same design principles. Multiple hulls, watertight compartments, and emergency systems that could seal off damaged areas instantly. "Boarding pods have penetrated the outer hull," reported Security Chief Williams, "activating internal defenses." Sarah smiled grimly. "Let them come." The Korthak creatures that broke through the outer hull found themselves in a maze of narrow corridors and heavy blast doors. Automated systems detected their presence and immediately sealed off entire sections of the ship. Emergency lights turned red and warning sirens began to sound. But instead of panicking, the human crew put their training into action. They had practiced fighting boarding parties in environments that simulated everything from space pirates to alien invaders. More importantly, they understood something the Korthak did not. Humans were persistence hunters. On Earth, early humans had learned to hunt animals much larger and stronger than themselves by working together and never giving up. They would chase prey for hours or days until it collapsed from exhaustion. That same instinct lived on in their descendants. Security teams moved through the ship like wolves hunting rabbits. They used the ship's own structure as a weapon, leading the boarding creatures into traps and dead ends. When the aliens tried to break through bulkhead doors, they found that human engineering was built to contain explosions that could tear apart a city. "Boarding parties eliminated on decks 4 through 7, Williams reported. "Remaining creatures trapped in Section 12. Recommend venting that section to space." "Do it," Sarah ordered. The trapped Korthak creatures were sucked out into the vacuum of space, their bodies freezing instantly. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as human crews used their vessel's own defenses to eliminate the invaders. Outside, the space battle continued with increasing fury. The Korthak had never faced enemies like this. Their usual tactics, acid sprays, boarding attacks, and overwhelming numbers, weren't working against ships that seemed to get stronger when damaged. Captain Martinez of the survivors demonstrated this perfectly when a massive Korthak creature wrapped itself around his ship like a giant octopus. Instead of trying to break free, Martinez ordered his crew to overload the ship's reactor, creating a controlled explosion that killed the creature while leaving his ship damaged but operational. "This is Survivors," Martinez reported over the communication channel. "Hull breach on 3 decks, but we're still fighting. That's one less bug to worry about." The Korthak began to change their tactics, focusing their attacks on what appeared to be the weakest human ships. But they quickly discovered that there were no weak human ships. Each vessel fought like a cornered animal, using damage as a weapon and turning every hit into an opportunity to strike back. The destroyer Apex Predator allowed itself to be partially consumed by a bioship twice its size. When the creature tried to digest the human vessel, Captain Johnson detonated shaped charges throughout his ship. The explosion tore the Korthak creature apart from the inside while his crew escaped in armored pods. "Apex Predator is gone," reported communications. But Captain Johnson took 12 hostiles with him. Escape pods are being recovered by the hurricane. Sarah felt a mix of grief and pride. They were losing ships and people, but they were making the Korthak pay a terrible price for every victory. More importantly, they were proving something that would change the galaxy forever. The Korthak swarm could be stopped. Lieutenant Park called out from his station. "Captain, I'm reading confusion in the Korthak formation. Their movement patterns are breaking down." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The alien creatures were no longer moving in their perfect swarm patterns. Some were fleeing toward the outer system. Others were attacking each other, and many seemed to be moving randomly. "They're not used to losing," Commander Roberts observed. "Their entire strategy is based on overwhelming force. When that fails, they don't know what to do." "Signal the Zilani ships," Sarah ordered. "Tell them to begin their attack run. The Korthak are confused and vulnerable. This is our chance." As the elegant Zilani vessels began to move forward, their crystal hulls gleaming in the starlight, Sarah felt a moment of hope. The human fleet was badly damaged, But they had broken the Korthak's seemingly unstoppable advance. They had shown the galaxy that even the most terrifying enemy could be beaten by people who refused to give up. But the battle was far from over. In the distance, Sarah could see the massive shapes of the Korthak queen creatures beginning to move. The real test was still coming. As the battle continued, Captain Sarah Chen began to see patterns that other commanders would have missed. The Korthak fought like insects because that's exactly what they were. Millions of creatures following simple chemical commands from their queens. But humans had learned to fight insects on Earth, and those lessons were about to save the galaxy. All ships implement Swarm Protocol 7, Sarah ordered over the fleet communication channel. Commander Jessica Torres of the heavy cruiser Survivors understood immediately. On Earth, the best way to fight a swarm of dangerous insects was to disrupt their communication and turn their own weapons against them. Understood, Admiral, Torres replied, using Sarah's new field promotion. Beginning hunter-killer operations, the Survivors, despite massive damage to its hull, began doing something unprecedented in galactic warfare. Instead of trying to destroy every enemy ship, Torres ordered her crew to capture Korthak bioweapons. Using mechanical arms and cutting tools, they literally carved acid-spraying organs out of dead Korthak creatures. Chief Engineer Jackson, can we mount these biological weapons on our hull? Torres asked. Jackson, covered in alien blood and human sweat, grinned. Captain, we once mounted harpoon guns on submarines to fight sea monsters. I think we can figure out how to use bug spit as a weapon. Within an hour, the Survivors had become something that would have given nightmares to both sides. Human engineering, combined with Korthak biological weapons, created a hybrid that was more dangerous than either species alone. The ship began melting through the carapaces of larger Korthak creatures, using their own acid, then planting human explosives inside their bodies. Meanwhile, the destroyer Hurricane demonstrated another human advantage: the ability to adapt tactics in real time. Captain Williams noticed that the Korthak creatures avoided areas with high radiation, so she deliberately flew her ship through the system's most dangerous zones. All crew to radiation shelters, Williams ordered. We're going hunting in the gamma-ray storm. Human ships were built with heavy shielding to protect crews during long voyages through space. The same protection that kept out cosmic rays and solar flares also allowed them to fight in radiation fields that would kill unprotected biological creatures. The Hurricane emerged from a radiation storm like a metal ghost, appearing behind a formation of Korthak queens that had thought themselves safe. The human weapons, designed to penetrate asteroid rock and space debris, tore through the surprised creatures before they could react. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah Kim, the fleet's chief biologist, had been studying the captured Korthak samples when she made a breakthrough. Admiral Chen, she reported over the communication system. I've figured out how their hive mind works. They use a combination of pheromones and bioelectric signals. If we can disrupt those signals, we can turn their own coordination against them. How do we do that? Sarah asked. We need to get close to one of the queen creatures and plant a signal disruptor directly into its nervous system. But it would be a one-way mission. No ship could survive that close to a queen for very long. Sarah looked around her bridge. Her ship was heavily damaged, with hull breaches on 5 decks and half her weapons offline. But the Indomitable was still fighting, still protecting the innocent people behind them. I'll do it, she said quietly. Admiral, no, Commander Roberts protested. Let me take a smaller ship. You're needed to coordinate the fleet. Sarah shook her head. This ship has the heaviest armor and the best chance of getting through. Besides, someone needs to send a message to the galaxy about what humans will do to protect innocent people. As the Indomitable began its final approach toward the largest Korthak queen, Sarah thought about Earth. Her home planet had taught humanity that survival meant fighting for every inch, never giving up, and protecting the weak from the strong. Those lessons had traveled with them to the stars. The queen creature was enormous, larger than some space stations. Its body was covered in smaller Korthak that served as living armor, and it bristled with biological weapons that could destroy entire fleets. As the Indomitable approached, streams of acid and living projectiles filled the space around them. Hull integrity down to 30%, reported Chief Engineer Jackson over the intercom. But the old girl's still flying. Sarah gripped her command chair as the ship shook under the impact of biological weapons. Around them, space was filled with the dying light of human ships making their final attacks. The volcano rammed a medium-sized queen creature, its crew singing an old Earth song about going down with their ship. The blizzard used its last weapons to clear a path for escape pods full of Zelani refugees. Signal disruptor. Ready for deployment. Dr. Kim reported. But I need to get within 50 meters of the Queen's neural center. Then that's what we'll do, Sarah said. The Indomitable dove toward the massive creature like a missile. Human point defense weapons cleared away the smaller Korthak protecting their queen, while the ship's heavy armor absorbed punishment that would have vaporized any other vessel. At the last moment, Sarah ordered the evacuation of all non-essential crew, but most of her people refused to leave. They were children of Earth, and Earth had taught them that some things were worth dying for. 50 meters in closing, called Lieutenant Park. Deploy the disruptor, Sarah ordered. Dr. Kim fired the device directly into the Queen's brain center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive creature began to convulse, its biological signals scattering in all directions. Throughout the system, the effect was immediate and devastating. Korthak creatures that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly turned on each other. Some fled in random directions, others attacked their own allies, and many simply stopped moving altogether. "It's working," shouted Commander Torres, from the survivors. "The entire swarm is falling apart, but the victory came at a cost." The dying queen creature wrapped its massive body around the Indomitable, trying to crush the ship that had killed it. Sarah felt her ship's structure begin to buckle under the enormous pressure. "All crew to escape pods," she ordered. "Abandon ship." "Not without you, Admiral," Roberts replied. Sarah smiled sadly. "Someone needs to make sure this thing stays dead. Get our people out of here. That's an order." As her crew reluctantly evacuated, Sarah remained on the bridge of her dying ship. She thought about the Zilani refugees they had saved, the example they had set for the galaxy, and the message they had sent to anyone who would threaten innocent people. The Indomitable and its captain died together, locked in combat with an enemy that had thought itself unstoppable. But their sacrifice had saved 3 worlds and shown the galaxy that the children of Earth would fight to the death to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. In the aftermath, as the surviving Korthak fled in confusion and the Zilani began rescuing human survivors, word of the battle spread across the galaxy. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. When innocent people called for help, humanity had answered. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, Admiral Jessica Torres stood on the bridge of the new flagship Indomitable II, watching as the largest gathering of alien ships in galactic history assembled around Earth. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to see the planet that produced the Deathworlders who had done the impossible. They had stopped the Korthak swarm. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Martinez, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council flagship." Torres nodded. She still felt strange being called Admiral, a rank she had received after Captain Sarah Chen's heroic sacrifice. The woman who had led humanity's first real space battle deserved to be remembered, and the new ship bore her name in honor of her courage. "Put them through," Torres ordered. The main screen filled with the image of Council Speaker Threnix, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms. Behind him, Torres could see representatives from dozens of alien species. Some she recognized from intelligence reports, others completely unknown to humanity. "Admiral Torres," Threnix said, his translated voice formal and respectful. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I officially invite humanity to join our organization as a guardian species, with full voting rights and the responsibility to protect peaceful civilizations from existential threats." Torres felt a moment of pride mixed with concern. Guardian species was the highest honor the Council could give, reserved for civilizations that had proven they would fight to defend others. But it also meant humanity would be expected to stand guard against threats like the Korthak wherever they appeared. "We accept the invitation," Torres replied, "but with conditions." A murmur went through the alien representatives visible on screen. No one had ever placed conditions on accepting Guardian status before. "What conditions?" Threnix asked, his 4 eyes showing curiosity rather than offense. "First, any human fleet sent to help other species will have complete tactical command during the crisis. We've seen what happens when military operations are run by committee." Threnix consulted with other council members before nodding. "Agreed. Your tactical effectiveness speaks for itself. Second, we want full access to galactic databases on potential threats. If we're going to protect people, we need to know what we're protecting them from." Also agreed. Torres took a deep breath before stating the final condition. "Third, any species that requests human protection must be willing to learn human military doctrines and defensive strategies. We won't just fight your battles for you. We'll teach you to fight them yourself. This caused more discussion among the council members. Many alien species had never fought a real war and had no interest in learning military tactics. But after seeing what the Korthak had done to protected worlds, the wisdom of Torres's demand was obvious. Accepted, Thrennick said finally. These conditions are reasonable for a guardian species. After the transmission ended, Torres walked to her ready room where first speaker Valen was waiting. The Zilani leader had become humanity's closest alien. Ally and his people had volunteered to be the first to learn human military methods. Congratulations, Admiral, Valen said, his blue skin showing the patterns that indicated happiness in his species. Though I suspect this is only the beginning of humanity's role in the galaxy. Torres poured coffee for herself, and the alien equivalent for Valen. Through the window, she could see Earth in all its dangerous beauty. Storms swirling over, the oceans, lightning flashing through the atmosphere, and the aurora dancing around the magnetic poles that protected the planet from cosmic radiation. Tell me something, Valen, Torres said. When your people first heard about humans, what did you really think? Valen made a sound that might have been laughter. We thought the stories were impossible. A species from a Class 12 death world? Most council members believed it was a myth created to frighten children. Even when we confirmed that Earth existed, we assumed any intelligent life there would be primitive and savage. And now? Now we understand that surviving on a death world doesn't make you primitive. It makes you the most dangerous thing in the galaxy when someone threatens the people you're protecting. A chime from the communication system interrupted their conversation. Admiral, Martinez called over the intercom. Priority message from the outer colonies. We have another situation. Torres and Valen hurried back to the bridge where the main screen showed a star map with a red indicator blinking near the galactic rim. Report, Torres ordered. 3 human colony worlds are under attack by an unknown species, Martinez explained. The attackers appear to be using some kind of mind control on the colonists. Initial reports suggest they're turning humans against each other. Torres felt a familiar chill. First the Korthak with their biological weapons, now something that could control minds. The galaxy seemed full of species that viewed peaceful civilizations as prey. How long until we can get a task force there? She asked. 4 days at maximum speed with the new hyperspace engines, replied the navigation officer. Signal the 3rd and 7th Deathworlder squadrons. Full deployment. Combat ready. And send a message to the Colonial Defense Force. Tell them to implement Protocol 7 immediately. Protocol 7 was something new, developed after the Korthak battle. When faced with an enemy that could control minds or corrupt technology, human crews would operate their ships like submarines in hostile waters. Sealed compartments, limited communication, and backup systems for everything. As the fleet prepared to depart, Valen watched the humans work with amazement. They moved with calm efficiency like predators preparing for a hunt. There was no panic, no hesitation, just professional soldiers doing what they had trained their entire lives to do. Will you come with us? Torres asked the Zilani leader. My ship is not designed for combat, Valen replied. But yes, I will come. Someone needs to document what the Deathworlders do to protect their own people. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity doesn't just fight for others. They fight hardest of all when defending their own. As the fleet moved toward hyperspace, Torres thought about Captain Sarah Chen and all the humans who had died at Kepler 442. They had sacrificed everything to save people they had never met, from a species they barely knew. But they had also established something important. Earth's children would not stand by while innocents suffered. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of species that saw others as prey. But now it also contained something new. Protectors, who had learned on the most dangerous world ever discovered that sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be better at war than those who would destroy it. Admiral, called the helmsman. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump. Take us out, Torres ordered. Someone's threatening human colonies. Time to remind the galaxy why Earth is called a death world. The stars changed as humanity's guardians raced toward another battle. Behind them, Earth continued its eternal dance. Storms and earthquakes, predators and prey, a world so dangerous that most species couldn't imagine surviving there. But Earth had done more than create survivors. It had created protectors who would fight to the death to defend the innocent. The age of the Deathworlders had begun.